Hello again, Chris Lee and Chase Robinson of Southeastern 16 here to preview Vanderbilt's trip to Kentucky to face the Wildcats. You can catch that 6:45 Central on the SEC Network. Kentucky is a 14-point favorite at betonline.ag with an over-under of 46. That means the predicted final score is Kentucky 30, Vanderbilt 16. My model has got Kentucky by 10.5. The Commodores coming off a stun-the-world upset of Alabama on Saturday. Kentucky coming off a bye, but the week before, the Cats got one of the bigger wins in recent program history with a really impressive win over Ole Miss that went down to the wire. Chase can't wait to see these two teams match up in Lexington.
Yeah, I can't either. I mean, because you think about it, you mentioned they're both coming off big wins. Kentucky's had a week to kind of reset themselves. Vanderbilt is just coming off the emotion of getting the win over the number one team in the country. But yeah, two big wins for these teams. It's two good teams, and the offense of Vanderbilt and the defense of Kentucky, I think, sets up for a fun matchup.
Well, and that's where we'll start, strength on strength. When Vanderbilt's got the ball, Commodores averaging 37.5 points a game on 64 snaps, though that's really – it's not the snaps as much as it is the time of possession. Vanderbilt held the ball for 42 minutes against Alabama. Turnover rate, 0.3% of the time. That is unheard of. Vanderbilt has lost one fumble all year and not been picked. The Commodores will run it 64% of the time, averaging 4.4 yards per rushing play, 8.2 per passing play for a total of 5.8 yards per play. Kentucky is averaging just 13.4 plays against, only 51 snaps against the Kentucky defense. We pointed that out as a key against Ole Miss, and boy, did that turn out to be a number you wanted to watch because they kept Ole Miss's offense off the field. Kentucky forces turnovers 1.6% of the time. Feels like a little low for Mark Stoops' defense. We've seen Max Hairston do some things in the past. 50-50 run balance against the Cats, 3.5 yards per rushing play, 6.2 per passing play for 4.9 total. Chase, it's not just the numbers with Vanderbilt's offense. It is Diego Pavia. It's those third down conversions. If you have not watched them, you are in for a treat. It's the closest thing to a triple option offense you'll see in the SEC. They'll do some RPOs. His accuracy in the passing game has been uncanny. They don't have a great stable of running backs, but they've got some guys who can make a few plays here or there. And Pavia is just you don't have any idea what's coming next. I mean, before the play, during the play, sometimes after the play, you're like, what is it that kid just did?
Yeah, and that's what makes him so special and makes him stand out. I mean, you talk about on third downs, there were several times where I felt like he was, Alabama put a stop to him, had him 3rd and 9 or something. And then here comes Pavia leading his team and they get the first down where he throws it or they get something running. So yeah, the third down conversions was impressive against Alabama. And then, yeah, they ran the ball at Alabama and they couldn't stop them. Like they controlled the clock. That's another thing Vanderbilt was able to do. They had the ball for 42 minutes of 62 minutes in the football game. If you're able to run consistently, hold the ball, like you have a good chance to win a ball game. So I was super impressed with what I saw from Vanderbilt, their offense, the way Diego Pavia plays. He's a game changer, and he's gonna change some games for Vanderbilt this year. There's no doubt.
Now, Kentucky's defense will probably be the best one Vanderbilt has seen. Deone Walker up front is the tone setter. They've got Weaver and Jackson in that linebacking core. They got Max Hairston, who brought back a couple of pick sixes against them last year. They're developing a good young defensive back or two. I mean, this is a team that gave Georgia fits. It held Ole Miss to few enough points where it could win. I mean, nobody is doing much against this unit. So I think it's going to be interesting. But, the wild card, again, is just you don't face anything that looks like this offense. And so it's just really hard to know, like, do the numbers that we threw out there even mean anything? I really don't know.
You're right. Yeah. And this Kentucky defense is really good. There's no way around it. But have they seen anything like this? That's the question. Can they can they make the adjustments they need to stop Vanderbilt? And I think they can. Like, I think they have the talent to do that, but easier said than done. And so I'm interested to see, because this is the strength on strength with Vanderbilt offense and Kentucky defense. Like, this is where the game is going to be won or lost. I feel like, is if Kentucky can make the stops they need to shut Vanderbilt down.
Let's flip sides of the matchup before we do. Reminder, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. And boy, if you bet on Vandy money line last week, you're a little bit richer this week. Hopefully some of you guys did that. If you know your stuff, get in on our $200,000 mega contest. Pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of over 150 slots games. Head to the website today, get in on all the action. Bet online, the game starts here. Kentucky's offense is averaging 22 points a game on 64 snaps per game, so very, very low tempo. And again, some of that is influenced a little bit by the fact that Kentucky didn't play about 40% of its game against Southern Miss, so the play total is a little bit low, but still, this just screams low-tempo game. Kentucky turning it over 1.6% of the time. Cats run it 59% of the time, 4.8 yards per rushing play, 5.3 per passing play. It got a little better. We saw a little bit of sign of life out of that offense last week against Ole Miss after just their passing offense in particular just looked so dreadful early on. Vanderbilt defensively, again, Commodores stronger on the other side of the ball. They give up 25.6 points a game on 61 snaps. Turnover rate 2% of the time. Teams will throw it 53% of the time, averaging 6.7 per throw, 4.5 per rushing play for a total of 5.7. Yeah, this one's kind of a wild card. Vanderbilt had trouble with athletes downfield. Kentucky's got those, but getting him the ball a question. And Vanderbilt also has shown the ability to generate a pass rush at times. It's got 11 sacks. Kentucky's had trouble protecting the passer. I have no idea what we're going to see here.
Yeah, this is the head scratching part of this matchup, because Brock Vandagriff has struggled at times. At times they've been able to move the ball. Other times they just haven't. They've stalled out or really just not been able to move offensively. And so, this is the part where if Brock Vandagriff is hitting his targets and they're able to generate something offensively, this game could look different. But it's up and down with Kentucky offensively. If they could find a way to get them going offensively, like defensively, we're talking a different conversation about Kentucky. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do, what Brock Vandagriff is able to do against this Vanderbilt defense. Will he try to throw the ball deep more? I don't know. You don't want him to put him in a position where you're kind of forcing him to make mistakes, but you want to do what he's comfortable with. But at this point, I'm not really sure what they're comfortable with offensively.
Yeah, I would. No, I think having the bye week probably helps him. You feel like there's more talent in the room than is shown. They had an offensive line with a pretty good amount of experience, some quality players there. Hasn't performed up to expectations, what seems to be like a kind of a recent problem for Kentucky ever since their offensive line coach died a few years ago. It just, between that and consistency with coordinators, but I mean, Brown, Key, Maclin, that's a talented group. Brock Vandagriff, talented quarterback. I feel like the sum of the parts is greater than what they've gotten. So, it felt like some encouraging things against Ole Miss, made a big play late. So we'll see what that looks like against Vandy. Let's get into picks and why. Jason, I'll start with you.
I had a hard time with this one. I know Kentucky's a big favorite. I'm going to go Vanderbilt. I'm going with the Commodores. Look, this is a classic trap game for Vanderbilt. You're coming off the biggest win in your program's history. you turn around, you go play Kentucky. But look, I think that gives these guys some confidence. And I think Vanderbilt is, again, when you look at the offense versus the defense, I think Vanderbilt has the talent offensively to play with anybody. And, I think they may exploit some things with Kentucky's defense that they haven't seen before in this season. So I'm going to ride with the team who beat the number one team in the country, and that's Vanderbilt.
There are mixed signals all over the place here. I really thought when the line came out, and I'm pretty good at knowing where it'll settle, I thought this would be a 7 to 10 point game. I think it opened at 12.5 or maybe even 11.5, and it's gone to 14 as we're doing this Monday afternoon. So that's always the one that freaks you out. Like, who knows something that I don't know? Now, look, last year Kentucky won the game decisively in Nashville. I was at it watching it in the press box. Max Hairston had a couple of pick six. The year before, Vanderbilt went up there and won with a mobile quarterback in the game in which it was a double-digit underdog. And, oh, by the way, what you don't want is Vanderbilt as a double-digit underdog. It was 13.5-point dog to Virginia Tech. Vanderbilt won that one in overtime. It was a 20.5-point dog to Missouri. Vanderbilt lost that one by a field goal in double overtime. It was a 24.5-point underdog to Alabama to start. I think that might have shrunk down to 21, but still, Vanderbilt won that game. Chase, but Vanderbilt also had a bye week last week, and it allowed it to fix some things against Alabama. I think Kentucky, I go back to the offensive talent. I think that there's more there than it's shown. I think if Mark Stoops wants to get his kids' attention, he can say, hey, look, we think we're all big and bad because we just beat Ole Miss, but guess what? Last time these guys came to our place, they won the game. And, oh, by the way, they're probably better this time because look at the Alabama game. I feel like God only knows what's going to happen. I say this with zero confidence. I'm going to take Kentucky because I think it's an interesting matchup, and it's in Lexington, and in that spot I always default to the home team. But the spread being that big gives me some pause to go, hey, what's going on here? So I'll take Kentucky, but no idea what's going to happen. I think it is a fascinating matchup. Can't wait to see it. And when it's done, we'll recap it here on the channel on our Saturday Night Live recap, which you can get by hitting the subscribe button. That's free. Hit the like button. That's also free. That helps our analytics. And we do baseball, basketball, football year-round. So Cat fans, basketball season coming soon. Same for Vandy. Things looking up for Vandy basketball too, I think. So looking forward to covering those teams. We reach millions of people a year in our audience. Caroline.smith@southeastern14.com. For Chase Robinson, I'm Chris Lee. You've been watching Southeastern 16 presented by BetOnline.